In November of 2023, the Swell Pod took a 10-day journey across 5 states, traveling 3,580 miles with one challenge in mind.
And that challenge was to interview 100 pleasantly rebellious humans to uncover deep truths about what it takes to create something that has never existed before, challenge the status quo, maybe even change the world.
This is the Kiln Road Trip, created and produced by the Swell Pod.
In partnership with Kiln, Moterra Camper Vans, and sponsored by Taurus.
I'm Spencer McKeown.
And I'm Josh Taylor, and together we're the co-hosts of the Swell Pod and your guides on the Kiln Road Trip. Follow along on the journey.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, follow the Swell Pod on social media, and subscribe to your YouTube channel at, you guessed it, the Swell Pod.
This is interview 75 of the Kiln Road Trip, and today we're at Kiln Portland in Oregon talking with Bart Dickson. Bart is the president and founder of Cobalt. Cobalt is passionately committed to transforming communities through their expertise in multifamily housing and build-to-suite commercial development projects. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you enjoy.
Well, welcome to the Swell Pod, Bart Dickson.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're grateful that you could be the one of the 100, and we'd like you to just introduce yourself for our listeners, who you are, what you're focusing on, and why that is an area that you are, dedicating your life to.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invitation. So Bart Dickson, I'm native of the Puget Sound, Washington State, and I find myself here in Oregon because I married a wonderful woman from here. So I've been building my career here for the last 20 years, and I've been working in the construction and real estate sectors. Studied law and realized that building things was where I wanted to be. So we focus today, our company is Cobalt Development, and we enrich lives and communities through the built environment. What that means is we believe our buildings shape us powerfully. And Churchill said, we shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us. And so when you create great space and you're able to gather people, and the way that works is it's potent. It changes how we feel about ourselves, and it changes how people interact with each other. In fact, the very space we are sitting in is kind of an homage to that. Kiln and our partnership with Kiln is because they bring people together. They are a convener of people from all different walks of life who learn to find common community because of the type of space created. And so a partnership with Kiln was pretty simple here in Portland.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you're right, this wouldn't exist. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that partnership with you guys. So people tend to say, I'm not sure if I've heard it really in the building industry, but in other industries, people kind of throw out cliche, things around, we're trying to build, sustainability or community, but like, how does that really work in practice? And what do you do to make sure that is, and why do you even care about that? Like, other than just building and making money?
Sure. Yeah. I have to eat, and my 5 kids and wife, they want to eat, so it's good.
How many kids?
5 children,
Whoa.
5 sons.
5 sons, all boys.
All boys. Well, we kept going for a daughter, and we got 5 sons.
Keep going. Yeah. I get it.
But hey, as an aside, yesterday I went to a party where we cut a cake open and realized that our first grandchild will be a granddaughter.
No way. Congratulations.
Really?
Thank you very much.
That's amazing.
So
Can you find that out just by cutting in the cake?
No. My daughter-in-law's friend gets the results, and she goes to a bakery, has it done. So my daughter-in-law, and so
that's amazing.
They learned last night, and we were all there surrounded by friends and family. It was a big celebration. So
is that your first
first grandchild?
So very first, and you get a girl.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's exciting.
So the generation's starting with a beautiful granddaughter here in June.
Are they all still local to the area, or have they moved away?
3 of our sons are still in high school, a freshman, a sophomore, and a senior.
Yeah.
And then 2 are away at school. They're in Provo.
Okay.
At BYU.
There we go,
Oh,
just
very
down the
nice.
road from me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
I did not know that. That's neat.
So we're having a good time with that. So you asked the question,
Yeah.
and I think it's a good one. Let me maybe flip that question on its head a little bit. When you walk into a bad space, a poorly designed space, or if we see someone who's really poorly dressed, it stands out. It's recognizable. And sometimes we can't always put a finger on why the space is just wrong or off. They say it's got bad feng shui, right? Like, just what's wrong with the space? Or you're around a conference table that's poorly oriented, or the chairs and whatnot. But when people, especially designers, I want to give the designers copious amounts of credit. When they design things, that are buildable and financeable, it's a draw. People want to go to the space and they want to experience being gathered and collected. And you see that in sports arena, you see that in a concert venue, you see that at a place of worship, you see it at a school, or you don't. And there's a reason we spend a lot of money in schools, because that environment changes the way people focus or what they focus on. And so from lighting to heating to cooling to how high the ceiling is or not changes the way we're experiencing that day, that moment. And if I'm building an apartment project, a derogatory term for developers is they're slumlords, right? They build things that are just cheap and quick to make money and put people in there that rent, as opposed to people who take enough time, like we really strive to do, and put in elements that allow people to feel really good about how much light they have coming to their unit, or how much privacy they get, or what access they get to the outdoors and how available that is. And it takes tremendous effort to be intentional to provide people a good experience with the built environment.
That's really, really good. Our last interview that we just pulled in actually was all about analyzing and tracking behaviors and things that influence behaviors and how someone feels, and assessing the weather and assessing what you're wearing and the amount of light that's in a room. Like, they're trying to really see what the things are that influence how you feel. But that resonates with me. So why is it you care about that, and how did you discover that that's something you really wanted to make as a priority?
I think, like many people who come to it, it's a little bit accidental.
Yeah.
I'd love to say it was this thing I knew the entire time.
Yeah.
I'm fourth generation contractor. My great-grandfather and grandfather and father are all in the construction industry. They pled with me to get out, to break the chain of intellectual poverty in our family.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it. But I went and studied law, and my experience after passing the bar exam was 3 attorneys who were construction attorneys in a row said, "You don't want to practice construction law. You want to stay in industry." And I was at a good firm here in town, Hoffman Construction. And they said, "Your influence and what you can accomplish will be greater there." And to have 3 people in a row tell me, even though you just passed the bar, stay in industry. It took me a long time to reconcile with that advice. And once I did, I decided to lean into putting together great projects. And I think one of the most exciting things about participating in the built environment is participating with so many talented people. It's like you're assembling a new team of folks every time you build a new project. It's usually new folks at the city because it's a new venue. And so your authority having jurisdiction has new characters. It's a new architect, and it's a new set of engineers. It's a new set of builders or subcontractors. It's new tenants or residents. And so you get to interact with a remarkable cross-section of talented people. I can't leave out the financiers, the investors, and bankers. Thank you all. But everybody comes together to make it a reality. And when you come to a ribbon cutting and you're celebrating the opening of a new facility, there's a lot of enthusiasm around it because everybody had a part in bringing it together. So in a way, building something is convening talented people with different levels of vision or capacity. So I really enjoy that. In fact, last night I stopped in at Kiln Provo. Got to
No way.
party.
You were at
the big launch.
Yeah, big launch.
Did you see the van there?
Yes, I was going to ask you about that.
How did you get here so quickly?
How many of those vans do you have?
Well, no, so Montero is the sponsor.
Yeah.
And they have like 80 of those vans, and so this one was specifically just for this Kiln Road Trip.
I briefly met the founder last night.
Kevin, yeah.
Yeah, Kevin and
he was a great guy.
Brad and Yad were there. So it was.
How was the part? How was it?
Oh, it was bumping. It was great.
Some of the photos.
There was a lot of people, a lot of energy, great food, good music. I had to leave early, and I apologized to Arian because he was doing his thing at 8, and I had to go be cutting a piece of cake open to see what kind of grandchild I was doing. So I had to leave early.
And you had to get to this interview, right?
And I heard to catch a plane this morning to get back for the interview.
Oh gosh, what did you think of the building? And now, were you involved in that building?
I wasn't. No,
you were just invited to be a part of it. Yeah.
No, it's interesting. I think that Kiln has done a nice job of finding existing locations, and that was the first one that they purpose built. Yeah. And so that was really kind of an amalgamation of a number of design elements that they liked and saw and appreciated about other locations, and they tried to bring that together and stitch it together in one congruous piece there in that really cool location of theirs.
That's cool. Well, if this wasn't, being recorded, I'd love to ask, what didn't you like? What did you like about the buildings? And anyway, let's not go there. But where do we go from here? What are the challenges that you're facing then as trying to build your vision, the mission, and why you're doing this thing? What is your number one challenge?
Sure. I think, like the weather, our challenges, they move. They're not always the same.
No.
Right now, if you're reading the newspaper at all, and it's not a fun time to read the newspaper, or it's digital paper now, financing is really hard.
Yeah.
Liquidity's tough. And so finding lenders who believe in what you're doing it takes work. It takes good numbers. It takes a solid plan, and it takes relationships. So that's probably one of the things our firm focuses on as much as anything, is cultivating relationships with people who are going to be there for you and with you when things are ideal and when they're not ideal. So today's headwinds are the ability to finance new projects and put in place. But I think the other thing that is perpetual and constant is attracting people into the trades. So many people today talk about education and what it'll do for people. And I think they're just a general benefit from being informed. But oftentimes education's tied to economic factors and how people rise or fall economically. And there's a lot of people who don't want to attend university and cannot because it's increasingly unaffordable. And we have good paying jobs where people get to produce awesome facilities and buildings, and yet we're having difficulty tracking people towards the skilled trades. And so one of the causes that I would love to pick up when I had an extra set of hours in my day would be to encourage young people or adults who aren't satisfied in their current employment to consider being a creator, create things with their hands and with their minds and with their skills, and develop the ability to use tools and create awesome spaces. Because one of the reasons we see increases in cost is because there's not enough labor to build it, and therefore your cost of creating those spaces goes up. Ironically, the wages are pretty impressive, but the work is not always perceived as professional. And so you don't see a lot of skilled, you don't see a lot of shop class anymore, or educators and teachers in secondary education saying, hey, you should pick up a lathe or a drill, or you should pick up a hammer. That's not where they want to push people. They want to push them to the university system, which I think does a lot of good for us. But there's another place that people can go and have an awesome career of rewarding work, and that's in the skilled trades.
Yeah, digital creation is fantastic, but when you start building things physical, obviously buildings are like a core, most common one out there. You build spaces, super satisfying, and maybe people don't realize that as much. So how many of the four sons are going to go build buildings with you, or is that a journey? Have you encouraged them?
I'm trying to let them find their own way.
Yeah.
My oldest is studying construction management.
Really?
I'm excited for him. Second one looks like it's going to be marketing.
Yeah.
Business. So.
Marketing the buildings. The first one builds. Yeah.
Yeah. The third one's really smart. I just went out to Johns Hopkins to visit that campus. He's an invitation to play football out there, and he's trying to decide if he's going to go to the East Coast or where he's going to go to school. So right now he's more focused on winning the state championship in football. So we got a big game.
Oh yeah.
Big game tonight. Semifinal game against Central Catholic.
Tonight.
Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe we should go there and watch that.
Well, we're looking for something to do tonight.
You can sit with me.
Yeah.
We'll take you over.
Yeah.
Maybe we should.
I haven't been to a high school football game in a long time.
Shall we?
Cool.
Part of our story.
It's not far away.
What is it? It's the final.
Semifinal.
Oh, semifinal. So it's a big deal.
With all deference and respect to the two teams in the other bracket, who I know and like and appreciate, they've touted everyone's been waiting for this game all year long as the potential championship. So the fact that these two teams are squaring off in the semifinals, a little bit of a surprise, but it's a highly anticipated matchup.
What time?
7 p.m. Pioneer Stadium in Oregon City.
Okay.
Let's see what we see. We got a lot of B-roll to go, but this would be super cool. Yep. Thank you. So questions.
Yeah, I'll ask
last two questions. Yeah. So I'm taking over here.
I think so. We've talked about Kiln a little bit. So I might just ask a question that you like to ask, right? Yeah. I think obviously, so our podcast is about pleasantly rebellious people. I would like to just see from your point of view, what about you is pleasantly rebellious? Give us an example of something about you that might be pleasantly rebellious.
What would your wife say? No, you can stay.
Well, I think that one of the things I do is the older I get, I look at the system or the context in which we work. And right now there's this great drive nationally and certainly regionally and locally for affordable housing. Let's make it more affordable. And I think I would be pleasantly rebellious to help some of our policy makers and some of our friends at counties and cities to realize that some of their policies are antithetical to that goal. Meaning if they want affordable housing, they've got to change the way they regulate and they've got to re-examine some of their regulations because they put a lot of cost, they add cost to building and some of it's necessary and some of it's not. So if we want to come together to achieve some of society's goals and do things that are important for people on all levels of the economic spectrum, we've got to examine our policies and how they make things more expensive.
Yeah, I appreciate the answer. Thank you.
And that's what you're doing? You're in the process?
One project at a time.
Pleasantly rebellious, yeah. Okay, one project at a time. I like that.
Should we ask the last question, or?
Yeah, is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we ask the last one?
Maybe we've been impressed. So we've been impressed with Kiln, obviously, especially here. It's really interesting to see all of the incredible people that work out of this space. Really, truly, given how short it's been open, right? The limited time that it's been open, there's some really incredible people here doing some cool stuff. And what I thought was also interesting is we don't know the area. We just came in, but in our first 3 interviews, 2 out of the 3, we're like, oh, you can. What was the brewery? What was it called?
Oh, Away Day.
Away
Day, which is English lady that wants to bring kind of the English football and pub kind of feeling and family environment to Portland.
Yeah. And ultimately just a lot of really interesting stuff that's going around right in this community where these businesses are also leveraging the businesses in this community.
Yes.
It really feels like a kiln, like a real melting pot. Like
maybe that's where Aryan called it a kiln.
Here. I know, but it's been very impressive. And anything else that you'd like to say about this kiln?
Yes, I would. I'm grateful for the question.
Yeah.
When we met the Kiln executive team and became friends through Daniel and Arian and whatnot, it was apparent that they wanted to be in the Pacific Northwest. And without any formal relationship, I had just been a user of Kiln facilities elsewhere. And they said, hey, we're looking to be in the Northwest. Take a look. Let's see if we can partner up. And it was pretty casual. And then we started looking. Our broker found this. And we fell in love with the building. The bones are great. The location's awesome. There's food all around. And as you say, this environment, this community is really cool. But there were great headwinds. And if, coming out of COVID, there was a lot going on in our country with a lot of upheaval. Portland, Seattle, San Francisco suffered significantly from that with a number of social issues. When I went to go draw on the interest of our investors for this location, I found some real headwinds. They were not confident in local leadership. They were concerned about crime. They were concerned about what was going on in the area and some of the regulation. And so people said, if it's in this county or in the city, we're not interested. And as a leadership group at Cobalt, we had some pretty earnest discussion internally about whether or not this building that was so great deserved to receive a bunch of our energy and attention to get it off the ground, because others would have these concerns about what's being said about Portland at the time. And so if you want to talk about pleasantly rebellious, we pushed back and we said, yeah, we know, we're very aware of what's happened and happening in the city. But if it's ever going to get better, people have to grab the tools. They have to grab a shovel and start digging. They have to start making a difference. And so it's a tiny contribution that I think our firm made together with Kiln is to bring this vitality and this energy and this gathering here. But we had to go find people who would believe in the narrative that we developed. It was a pushback of, yeah, of course it's not optimal right now, but we can't always go forward and do things just when it's optimal. We have to find a reason and a purpose that is worth going forward with, even when it's hard, even when it's not obvious. And so I think perhaps I'm most proud of this collaboration with Kiln because we did it in the face of some pretty real social headwinds and some headlines that weren't favorable. And the response, as you've noted, has been potent. It's been incredible.
Yeah.
And we're really proud of what's happening here, of who's gathering here. We're proud to bring our clients and our investors here. And we're just grateful that we're part of this community.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. It would have been easy to say, no, okay, forget it. Let's leave this alone.
Well, some investors actually questioned they questioned how intelligent we were about deciphering what a good investment looks like. They're like, why would you bring such an investment? It's obvious that, Portland doesn't deserve investment right now. And we said, it's what we have to do to get it back to the point. Because I love the city. I've worked here since 2003, and it's been beautiful and wonderful. And it's having a hard time. But when it's having a hard time, do you turn your back to it, or do you lean into it and start contributing to the solutions? And again, this is a small drop in the bucket, but it's a bunch of drops in a bucket it's going to take to fill it back up.
Yeah, that's great. Well, the last question, and you may have already kind of given lots of little answers to this without even realizing it, but what does it, in your opinion and your experience, what does it take to create something that never existed before?
You have to be able to see it. You have to be able to see it mentally and believe that it's possible. We often use a phrase in our family and in the office, which is find a way. If you know you want to accomplish something, if you know something needs to be done, the reason it's not done is because others can't see the obvious path forward. And so you have to see it in your mind distinctly enough that you can go find a way to go bring people to the cause and make it happen. To believe when believing's hard. And that's something that we're cultivating. I've cultivated that for most of my life, is to believe in something that you can't see right now, but you believe can and should be there, should be present. And that's been one of the secrets of my life and career, is to see it mentally first and then work hard to bring it forward. And I think those who accomplish great things have done that. And I'm not alone in that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a really powerful answer. And I want to carry on asking. Well, just a last bit to that answer. So it makes me think, you either have it, you either see it or you don't, right? If you see it, then go do it. It's going to be easier. Rely on that confidence that you've already seen it. So go lean into it. But if you can't see it, it's not clear enough. What have you learned to find it?
It's an awesome question. And the first thing that comes to my mind is you've got to go talk to people who are a little wiser than you. Share what you want to do. You want to ask about how would you go about trying to do it. And one of the great shapings of my life has come through mentors. And I wish that everybody had the fortune that I've had to have good mentors in my life. People who were interested in me, who would listen to me, who would correct me when I was astray. And when you can't figure out, when you can't see it well enough, but you just want to make it, or you want to implement some change or bring it together, you just start talking about it and you start sharing it, your vision, your ideas, your desire with others. And before you know it, other people who have similar interests find you. And it's an amazing phenomenon that if you see it or want to see it, you start talking about it, you start attracting people and resources to that. In fact, I think when you talk to Jerry Mason next, he's somebody who saw all this effort going into trying to solve homelessness in Portland. And so Jerry chose to do something unique about it. And I'm really proud of him for what he's trying to accomplish in that regard, because he's bringing people together and doing it in a fresh new way. And I hope you ask him all the questions about it. But I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk with you guys today.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Kiln Road Trip. Be sure to follow along on the rest of the journey, and you can do that in two ways. One, subscribe to the podcast, whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or maybe even watching on YouTube, and follow along on all of our social media platforms, whether you're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or TikTok, @the Swell Pod. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.